Here.
No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
All right, welcome back to episode 5 now of the STRS podcast, and we're here with Earl Grey from the UK. I'm assuming Great Britain, right?
Yes. Britain, England, whatever you wish to call it.
Well,
the
you know,
island in the middle of the ocean.
I have to be sure to make the distinction. My wife's English, so she'd yell at me if I didn't at least give you the opportunity to pinpoint it for us.
Yeah. I'm predominantly on Twitch, streaming. It used to be daily, but now it's sort of more early week, sort of Sunday to Thursday. And lucky for you guys, normally it's in your morning time. And I stream that it's kind of a weird slot. I kind of fell into it because the North American streamers were in our sort of afternoon, evening time. So I did 12 my time till 5. And that seemed to catch a lot of guys either at work or just before the big boys got ready. So that's how I've sort of lucked into my time slot. And it's been good for EU as well, of course, with kids or people at school and people at work as well. And it's amazing how many people watch Twitch at work.
I bet it is. I know my work would definitely be asking me why I was streaming a lot of video.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's very certain jobs, maybe administrative jobs. Interestingly, one chap who does watch is from a game publication company. They must promote free-to-play games, and he kind of watches as part of his job. It's just
nice.
kind of cool.
Paid to watch streamers.
Yeah, how good is that?
Yeah, wouldn't we all love that
pretty
job?
Sweet gig.
I mean, I tell my partner in the evenings if I'm watching Twitch that I'm just doing research, you know.
Research, of course. Well, if you could just give us a little bit of background, bio, where you're from, how long you've been playing ships.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I haven't been like one of the originals, if you call it that. People who were in closed beta, even alpha. I came to ships around September last year. I'd only started streaming from late July, and I'd only gotten into streaming from a friend who he kind of like peer pressured me into CS:GO. He was a big fan of his first-person shooters. I'm 30 years old, and my fast twitch reflex muscles are not quite what they used to be. And I do all right, yeah, kind of hold my own. And I only really was streaming because I was recording some of the games, and we had some funny moments in CS:GO and a bit later on at Battlefield 4. And I was uploading a lot to YouTube, and then finding myself watching Twitch to see how other people do it. It was something that I was spending a lot of time on. And prior to that, I was freelancing, just doing the old web design, IT related stuff. So I was then finding that being self-employed, I was lacking the discipline to do much work, and I was spending a lot of time gaming because my friend was working shifts so often. It would happen that in the day, that was when he was free to play games, and I found it very hard to say no. So then looking at Twitch, I thought, well, yeah, some guys who appear to be doing very well, and I think I could do just as well, if not better. So if I'm going to spend all this time gaming, I may as well at least try make it productive. I'd already invested in a green screen and lighting for some of my freelance stuff. I'd built a real shoestring budget PC just to meet the grade of Battlefield 4 because money's been pretty tight. And once I had the hardware and stuff, I then thought, well, here's a nice technical challenge. I like networking and computers and all that jazz. So I got further into it, and it became a sort of personal challenge. How high a production quality sort of stream could I put on for the very limited budget that I had? And the answer was obviously fairly high. It was quite complex because I didn't have a capture card. I had to use all sorts of elaborate workarounds to do it. And from, I'd say about September, I got into ships just before it was officially released. And I've been playing it. I was playing it 7 days a week. I was playing it pretty much every day, and I have been playing it very regularly for probably close to 8 months now. From that time, and it's been an interesting ride with all the changes that have happened.
Well, if you don't mind just asking, I'm sure people would be curious. What was that budget you gave yourself to set up what you called the bare minimum?
Yeah, well, it was kind of incremental. So you know how you sort of start off. You generally build a gaming rig around the graphics card that you can afford, but I can't remember the exact one. It was an AMD. Most of my stuff was AMD, of course, being budget. So I started with a 4350 CPU. I think I just went for 8 gig RAM. I bought a cheap gigabyte motherboard. I think I got 120 gig SSD to start with, a Crucial BX100, a very budget SSD. Because of loading times, you had to get in the round quick. The budget was as I say, it was kind of, as money came in, I'd sort of set aside £100 or X amount for that component, and just sort of slowly built up enough and bought the parts. I think I saved up actually to save on postage for the parts to do it, and finally, I think there was a Prodigy case was on sale, so that one met the criteria, and then that was just the gaming rig, and I then needed a streaming PC, so I repurposed a laptop. But what happened in the end was, as I then built a streaming PC, I simply migrated those budget components. The 4350 CPU is now in the streaming PC, and then that friend who sort of peer pressured me, he then sold me his GTX 760 and a monitor for £100. So I had a fairly decent capable graphics card and an extra monitor for very little. So I kind of lucked into that. That's kind of not really fair, because most people, they're going to go on Amazon or eBay.
They're going to pay retail.
And source it. Yeah, they're going to pay retail. They're going to pay a sort of.
Well, there's a different way to look at that, right? It's sounds like he hustled you into buying his old stuff to fund his new stuff.
Oh no, absolutely. He sort of upgraded. He was like, well, I'm going to have to get me a 960 or 970, whatever he went for. And do you want to buy my old card? Because the wife needs to know that I can tell the wife that it was actually £100 cheaper than it was.
That sounds like a win-win proposition to me.
Wow, that's what I thought. And I thought, yeah, I could use a decent monitor as well. I think his dad worked in IT as well, so they refitted offices. So he had some old Dell monitors, so I got a free monitor from him. And yeah, not beg, borrow, and steal, sort of bargain, borrow, and barter. Let's put it that way.
Well, is that the same setup you're still running now, or have you been able to incrementally improve it?
Yeah, the only thing that really improved was actually, instead of having my repurposed sort of laptop doing the re-encoding in place of a capture card, I then built a specific streaming PC for, I think in the end, £220. I think in the end my rig came to about £600. So it's all still very basic. I've got a CM Storm keyboard, the Cooler Master keyboard. It's not a mechanical one, but it kind of looks like one, and a Logitech G402 mouse, which was supposedly at the time one of the best sort of first-person shooter mouses, and that's probably my most Gucci bit of kit, was the Logitech. Sorry, and then the Logitech C920 webcam, the HD webcam, and that had to be puckered. So that was bought brand new, but on Amazon and one of their warehouse deals. So again, I kind of lucked into things.
Kind of circling back to there's a lot in there, right? So what was the first game you actually started streaming? Was it Warships, or I think you said it was Battlefield 4 is what you really wanted to start doing?
Yeah, it was just Battlefield 4 by sort of incidents, that's kind of what I was playing. But then as sort of people started coming through, sitting in, chatting away, it was then became about interaction, and a first-person shooter is not good for interaction with the level of concentration it demands. So I then started streaming other kinds of games. For entertainment, people love to see you scared, So I did a bit of Alien Isolation, great for interaction, good for reaction, them to read that. But I don't really do scary games that well because I kind of, I sort of kind of can see things coming.
Oh, no.
I'm just not. I'm not a very expressive person. Maybe it's that Britishness. Maybe it's that sort of reserved
lack of emotion.
Yeah. Oh.
Well, he's not
surprised me a
German.
bit. No, I'm not quite German, but yeah, I might have a chuckle, a laugh, and I thought, well, that's all right and all. But when I tried Warships, with the old bravo, British Navy and all that. Yeah, of course there is no Royal Navy. Won't even go there. But it was a good one, and I found it was perfect for a small channel like myself to start out with, because I had the balance of a bit of action on the screen, explosions, strategy, thinking, the different classes. There was so much depth to the game, so much to learn from people coming through and coming in to the stream. It was a nice two-way relationship that was going on, and a lot of the guys that watched me back in when I was tier 1, 2, 3 are still there today, which is really nice. I don't think I have the biggest numbers on Twitch, but I like to think that I've got the quality over the quantity.
Well, I mean, most of your followers, are they mostly EU players, or do you see a lot coming in from North America?
They're a really nice mix. There's a few North American players who have migrated to EU. They've often created secondary accounts on the other server just to join in, because a lot of my focus is interactivity. My sort of mantra or feeling on streaming is it's an open thing that you're sharing. If you don't want backseat gamers, don't stream. If you don't want people, if you don't want people telling you, within reason, of course, there's maybe snooty, arrogant people who go, oh, yes, you shouldn't have done that, or oh, what a noob. Well, that's not in the right spirit. But if someone's saying, hey, you do better if you switch to AP at this instance with that broadside at that range, all right, cool, So we're learning. I'm learning from them.
Well,
and
with the stream delay, I mean, aren't a lot of their suggestions sort of like 15 or 30 seconds behind you?
Yeah, that was awful in Alien Isolation. People say turn left. Wow, dude, I okay, hang on, let me backtrack. Now it's probably a minute in my mind because of all the back and forth.
Yeah.
It just didn't work. With Warships, it's kind of okay. With the pace of the game, it's not so fast as tanks that you can probably quite readily identify what they're referring to.
Well, no, I mean, with professional streamers right now, you got to have professional followers. They should anticipate when they want to, give you the directions ahead, right?
Yeah, no, they're really good actually, and I encourage sniping in my rounds. Hence that sort of hands-on interactivity that probably encouraged a lot of. I've probably encouraged a few NA to come over to EU. I won't say I'm solely responsible for any declining numbers of people coming over, but that's been a lot of it. Rewarding as well. We did, in the Halloween event with the Ghost, the Phantom Fortress. We did our own sort of thing, which was the Fleet of the Damned. So if you killed anyone in my division or myself, you got a reward of the in-chat currency at the time, and we did some giveaways based on that. So that's kind of been the focus, because I cannot offer top-notch, professional Warships gaming. I didn't start off brilliant or amazing, and I've probably got a 56% win rate at best. That's a lot of YOLO in there. That's a lot of derping with different ships, saying, "Oh, I wonder if we can get away with doing this," and it's backfired. Maybe we've lost the game, or I take things very light-hearted. We do training rooms quite a lot with what we call Dance of the Torpedoings. We'll do destroyers only, torpedoes only, and it'll be tier 2 DDs or perhaps even tier 5 with your Minakazes with that great reload. We have done it with a Shimakaze involved too. Some people, just take your favorite DD, but it's nice to do either tier 2 or tier 5, give or take a tier, because the Isakaze is a good one to drop in there too. And it's interesting to see what people do, but that's been very, very popular in the stream, that hands-on sort of involvement. But also, literally as a training room and training, my torpedo dodging and sort of DD knife fights, preempting what that next player is going to do based on those experiences, has been really valuable. So I think everyone's sort of taken away something really valuable from it, and that's been most of my sort of pride and pleasure in my stream, is having those usual faces coming back. In Warships, they share their Warship stories. You'll never believe this round, and they'll share an image, a screenshot of whatever bizarre occurrence it was, or even just a particularly good round that they had. And we'll often have a look at it and have either a chuckle, or we'll share commiserations, or we'll say, "Oh, well done, good show."
Well, you've got an opportunity here to settle a dispute between me and Spectre here, which is a few weeks back we had a conversation about, hey, why don't more North American players just hop over to the EU server where the population's bigger and and they get to play tier 8 team battles and stuff like that. And Spectre was of the opinion that maybe latency would cause some significant issues, but latency, it's like when I call Supremacy League Super League.
Yeah,
right? It just on the fly, it just happens. I don't know. I got in the spirit of the accent. I don't know, but
the latency probably about 130 milliseconds from what I've observed, and the pace of the game makes it perfectly acceptable. I've gone over to NA. I think I've ground out to tier 5, and that was solely because of the introduction of team battles. I was so excited about that. The Grey Shadows were going to unite. We were going to sail over to NA, and we were going to smash some of the NA established streamers.
Smash some of the colonials.
Yeah, we were going to reclaim the colonies. We were going to reassert Britannia ruling the waves once more, and I was so disappointed you couldn't challenge a team.
Are you able to do that in EU?
No. When they implemented the team battle thing, I thought it would be something, where clans would be able to challenge each other, or tournaments. It wouldn't be this random thing. We have managed, using my bot, which does the 5-second leading countdown and then displays it in the IRC chat, because IRC only has about a second delay, a second and a half. We can get some really successful sniping action going on. So in team battles, we can, almost down to, got it down to a science. We can pretty much make sure it happens. But if you're trying to show up sort of unannounced on another team's battle, it's very difficult. And I don't know what it's like in NA. Maybe the chances are higher with a lower population of doing that. We didn't really pursue it too far, really. I think most of the actions over on EU, and most of my viewers, of course, are EU. So to sort of migrate over to NA was just a fun thing, and I wouldn't have done it sort of wholesale full time, but playing on it was a lot of fun. There's this back and forth argument as which one's the better server, which one's harder to play on. But I always temper it with the fact of, guys, if we played on the Russian server, it wouldn't matter. We'd all get our asses handed to us.
Why is
most
that?
likely. If you look at the stats, I'm not sure. Someone did explain to me, and they had a theory. I think warshipstats.com was one I looked into. Was the average XP of the player, the average damage done by each player? It was a lot higher. The stats appeared to say that the quality of player on the Russian server was much higher than EU. So it kind of went along the lines of Russia, EU/SEA, NA, in a certain order, with Russia sort of being seemingly the dominant, or the better
I don't buy
That's
that.
fair.
I mean, there's only a
No,
finite
some bits
number of
and
damage to
theories,
farm,
yeah.
right? You know, like
And some of the mechanics, some of the
yeah.
differences in how ships are implemented or balanced on set. There was a lot that this person went into, and they all seem very valid points. So I'm not sure where I stand there, but I'm always of the opinion, no matter how good you think you are, there's always someone bigger and better than you are. So just, you know,
Unless you're the
That's
Russians.
that's always fair. That's always fair.
yeah.
But
I
but
don't
to
mind, if you're self-confident, self-assured, that's one thing, but I'm not a big fan of arrogance, because it's always fun to see the arrogant person toppled.
no, I mean it's a the stat argument, right? So last week we talked to the lead
Mm,
producer from Wargaming North America, and he says he's got servers and servers worth of data, and part of
I
their
bet.
problem is how to interpret it and what to do with it
Yeah.
when they do get it. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, those stat sites are interesting, and and we
Mm-hmm.
even use it, right, to kind of
Sure.
recruiting or all that kind of stuff. But at the same time,
Yeah.
it's got to be tempered, right?
Yeah. There was a whole back and forth about, what win rate says about a player. And I think ranked was a really good example of how flawed the individual win rate is. With the ranked and the random players kind of distilling the random battles and then having this competitive edge, it really showed what the sort of roulette it can be when it comes to teams and the quality, the motivation of the players. I believe Wargaming, when they first ramped up the introduction of ranked battles, I believe, and I quote from the developers, it was to give players who weren't part of clans a team-based experience, and more of a communication and a far higher quality of team battles. And it failed miserably in doing that. And I repeated it on stream a lot. If that was the stated intention behind ranked, was to reward sort of team play, playing in sort of unison with a common objective, and you could expect a very much higher standard of play. But it just didn't shine through. There were players I knew to be very capable. I'd witnessed what they were capable of on many occasions in the normal random battles. And I'd seen them struggle in ranked. And they'd often come in the stream and I'd say, dude, what are you struggling with? And they're just like, well, ranked is nothing more than persistence
Oh
to
yeah,
get to rank
absolutely.
one.
Perseverance is what gets you out of ranked. But I mean, for us, like you see a handful of carriers, they'd go early, they'd kind of tee it up so they were all in the same thing, and they'd muscle their way through early. And then after that, you wouldn't see carriers. But for the most
Right.
part, in ranked, it was, hey, did you win the destroyer lottery?
Yeah. There was the knife fights between the destroyers in I think the second season. The Kiev reigned supreme.
Oh yes.
That was a beast until that was nerfed. Then the Bluskavica, the Polish DD, that came in as one of the dominant. And now we're seeing, I think, the Bensons. Certainly in
Bensons,
team
yeah.
battles, Bensons are gods up there.
Hey, you don't need to rub it in, man. I mean,
Well, I was at a disadvantage. I was having to play the low young because wallet warrior or what that I hadn't ground out the Benson. I'd given up on the USN 9 prior to the buff. They had what was essentially suicide torpedoes. It just didn't make sense.
you're just
IGN's.
mocking us with your tier 8 team battles, is what you're doing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the other thing. I still haven't fathomed out whether that's due to.
Well, we asked him last week, right? We asked the head guy.
what
We're
was
like,
the
hey,
answer?
why does? Because we thought maybe they take each region and test out a certain aspect. You know, Europe gets tier 8. We'll do tier 6 here and see how it works out. No, they basically said, hey, server statistics say not going to be that much participation if we go tier 8 in North America.
That's what I wondered, was that they probably looked at what do the bulk of the population have in their ports, and it's probably around tier 6 for the smaller population of NA. And it was probably the average was tier 8. Now, I would argue that in Europe, tier 8 is probably the most popular because I see very little need to go beyond tier 8 with the current economic structure in the game.
Well, did you guys get the Did you get the April minus 20% repair costs or whatever it was
No,
for
we've
above that?
had none of that. I was absolutely astounded when I did start playing on NA quite consistently at what rewards were available, how quickly I could earn things like flags, premium time, and so on. I thought there were a lot more incentives, and I think recently we've just got something on now where you chaps are being handed certain rewards for certain actions in the game. Is that
We are.
right?
We're fickle, right? But we're also small, and so like you'll see an ebb and flow of, oh, something new came out. We'll pop in for that, and then they'll kind of disappear for a while,
Right.
and then. So I'm not
think,
sure what that state's going to look like at the end, but
I
I'm
think
kind
a
of
while
jealous
ago
of the
someone
EU right
mentioned,
now.
I
Right.
think a while ago someone mentioned that the most of the players on NA are not like hardcore players. They're very casual, and so that's why a lot of our events are sort of very laid back and pretty easy, to be honest.
Well, we also
Yeah.
have a lot of games coming out right now, and I've seen you on Twitter a lot talking about Dreadnought, but I
Oh,
haven't
yeah.
checked it out yet. But is the European population kind of subject to that overload of new games coming out cycle?
Yeah, absolutely. I think my peak for Warships was back in September, late September, November time. Certainly in EU, my viewer numbers were around 300. They're pretty healthy, especially for such. I can't remember how many followers I had at the time. It was probably around 3,000 followers. So that percentage of viewers to followers was amazing. And then it dropped off because of Fallout 4. And that doesn't mean the game was any less popular. It means that people in their leisure time for entertainment, their sort of Twitch consumption was switched to the latest, greatest game. And Fallout 4 was very well advertised, much anticipated, and by all accounts, a very good game. I bought it. I was ready to stream it, and I never got around to it because I was so into ships. But then we had a little bit of a debacle around December time, a bit of a hoo-ha with the armor scheme patch mess up where they tried to tweak the citadels, how the armor scheme worked in the ship and the bouncing of armor piercing on the internal armor, and they fluffed it up. And I noticed almost a mass exodus both from Twitch and the game from Warships. I think it's fair to say the population of both people didn't want to play it, and they didn't want to see it being played at that time. And I then took that opportunity to take a week off, both from streaming and the game. I had been streaming, as I say, 7 days a week prior to that, and it was at that point that I thought, now I'm gonna take a day off for me, and I'm gonna take a little break now. And people understood it, and they took it. And Wargaming then redressed it, and things sort of carried on. But my stats, and I don't think the player base really has recovered to the point. Obviously, there are so many factors whenever you go along a sort of theory like the one I'm sort of saying now, my observation of my own stats. But you could say it was part of the hype of the game being released back in September. That may have provided a little bubble that just inevitably popped. You've just mentioned Dreadnought. That was sort of second on the Twitch rankings for a couple of days and has now slipped below Warships. World of Warships, its hype has died down, and possibly its player population has also died down as well. So yeah, there's going to be these ebbs and flows. We've had Dreadnought. There's another game that's coming out soon. We've got the hype building up for Battlefield 1 or Battlefield 5. We've got that coming up for October, and the thing to say though is that although Warships has bounced up and down the Twitch rankings, it has been quite steady from what I've seen. Over in EU, the player population is usually circa 15 to 20,000 around that time on the servers. You don't really find many times that you're waiting around too much for matchmaking, unless you're playing a very high tier carrier or team battles, or back in ranked, maybe you may have been waiting for a game for a long time. In EU, that's never been an issue. And in my experience of NA, I have played it in my evening time. I've never really found a problem getting into a game.
No, we don't really have.
I'm talking the lower tiers, of course. I only got to tier 5.
Yeah, you don't wait too long in queue unless sometimes the high tier carrier is about the only time. You go in, you wait your 4 minutes, and then you're like, all right, we're out because we're not assholes and we're not going to get you the 3-on-5 match that sometimes happens for carriers that last that long. But, I mean, 10,000 is about what we hover at. We did some research on kind of the server stats over the last year. I think North America kind of peaked around 15, but we hover between 9 and 11K. And looking at the EU and the Russian servers, they're somewhere averaging about 20 to 21K, depending on what month you look at. But, I mean, it's all right. It led me enough to think, hey, maybe I should create an EU account just to check it out and see what the differences are. But since you have a North America account, do you see any kind of meta or strategy differences between the two servers?
I'm told about it a lot. Unfortunately, what I'm told isn't always corroborated. For instance, I was told stuff like carrier sniping. It was supposed to be an EU phenomenon, but then I'm told that in North America, the same tactic is often employed as well, where one carrier will just go straight for the other one to eliminate it from the game. I don't know. Again, not being a carrier, I can't comment on that. Insofar as battleships, like the meta with the current battleship behavior of hanging back and sniping and sort of all about self-preservation, whereas most people agree and believe it should be about tanking damage for the team. I didn't really see too many differences, to be honest. The biggest thing I will say is NA seemed less likely in the in-game chat, to get upset and salty about things. Did seem...
Whoa! You said we were
just
less
due
likely
to a reduced sample size. Let me just say
right.
that.
Okay, and see, there we go. There is one thing there. There's an observation of my experience, and that doesn't corroborate with yours. And then vice versa, when someone from NA comes over and they say, "Oh, I played on EU and it's like this," and we're like, "Hang on, that doesn't ring true." So it's really tough to comment on that unless you have sort of equal experience.
On a somewhat like a tangent, do you guys ever experience, like, say, Russian players coming over to EU and, like, checking things out?
I have. The only time I might have even witnessed that is only when someone's put it in the team chat. They've like written in Russian in the team chat, so that may be how I know that there's a Russian-speaking player. Not necessarily that they are Russian, but the Russian-speaking. No,
Not really.
Yeah, if it has happened, it's not been on a level that's been brought to my attention or has caused any change.
Okay.
Well, that's one thing I want to kind of ask about is, so while we're talking about trolls and jackasses in chat, and we have a smaller sample size, but when you look at the EU, do you see a large number of English being spoken, or is it a good mix of languages, or what's the universal language in chat?
Predominantly English, but it wouldn't, like this evening actually, it didn't surprise me to see German being spoken. German's quite a popular language. There's quite an active and vocal German community for World of Warships. I know that from having been to Warsaw for the Tanks Grand Final and actually meeting some of the German Sonossi from YouTube, Mutality, who was on YouTube. They do seem quite active, and this guy who watches my stream, the company he works for is in fact German as well. They're a German media company, and it's amazing. Again, I don't want to go off too much on a tangent, but the Germans seem very much into embracing the esports and computer games and that market. It's obviously a growing industry. The company he works for was set up back in 1982, nearly in the 80s, and that's quite an old corporation when we talk technologically speaking. They still can't comprehend how PayPal sort of works. They still believe in checks through the mail if they have to pay someone.
Well, that's because they're German.
Yeah, it's works. But,
yeah, I lived there for a few years. That's how everything's done.
Sure, but there's that's not stopped them. They've embraced it. They're doing well with it. The ESL stuff, the esports leagues are being held over there, and those guys are really passionate about it. And they obviously the Germans we know like to do things properly, and they certainly seem to be doing it to the best of their ability of this whole community thing, and trying to do well at Warships, but also trying to foster a community around it, and which has been one of my focus with my stream. I've always said I'd rather sacrifice the sort of top tier gameplay if it means I can look at chat a bit more, and we can have a good time, because I'm always of the mindset this is a game. This is something people play when they're not working. Therefore, it shouldn't be like World of Tanks. From what I haven't played World of Tanks, and that's where I'm kind of another anomaly. A lot of people migrate from tanks to warships, and I'm often warned, don't play tanks. It's a toxic community. You got to stay away from it. I have delved into it a little bit, and sure, it does seem super serious. I've watched the World of Tanks Grand Finals, and I've seen the result of that super seriousness, of the clan battles and the commitment to... we're seeing it somewhat in team battles for World of Warships, that commitment to it. But it is something we play in our spare time. It should be a rewarding experience. It should be pleasurable. We should really be having fun when playing it. It's nice to try and master it, and do consistently well, but I would like to see people kind of be able to take a step back. We have to accommodate the fact that there are probably hormonal teenagers playing as well, 12-year-olds or whatever, who just haven't understood what social etiquette is, and how you address people that upset
that
you.
And really old people, right? Because we've got similar experiences with that. I don't think it's age specific, man.
No, but if we want to accommodate all the factors, we have to be, take them all into account. And equally, the people who have had a bad day at work and are having a bad day now in their leisure time are a little bit upset about that. So
yeah, I'd have to admit, I've been, subject to that once or twice in my time playing ships. But let's talk about the community a little bit more. So when you circle back to a comment you made. So when you first started streaming, and you were talking about your time schedule and some of the other what you called main streamers out there, kind of where do you see yourself fitting in with them, and what was the reception to you, and how much collaboration or interaction do you have with those guys?
With the likes of Braincage, very little. Mijash is mostly on Twitter. Again, because we are two ships passing in the night, I end, they begin, for the most part. There was convenience for me because of my family. I've got two daughters. One of them's only 4 years old, and I like to be with her in the evening. So there was both sort of convenience for me, and also what I saw as a gap in the market of English-speaking streamers. With collaboration for the EU streamers, once I sort of started doing well, a couple of other chaps either moved their time slots if they were in the evening to sort of enjoy that, what I'd proven was a good time slot as well, or new streamers came in, or streamers who perhaps had taken a break from Warships or streaming altogether started up. So then we ended up with probably about 4 or 5 other guys within similar either starting whilst I was, or had started just before I'd gone live, and most of them have been taken in by Wargaming. I think I was one of the first Wargaming community contributors brought in, along with others. Shipcomrade.com was one of them. He was an NA contributor, and then he was made an EU one, so he kind of bridges the two servers and the two communities. But I was brought in when he was, and with that has come the communication sort of within Wargaming's own agenda and channels. So they're forum PMs or a Skype contributor chat. And again, taking the same attitude as I've done with my viewers, I like to take into these contributors. So if we've got guys on YouTube, I've had a couple of them. I mentioned Jamin411, one of our replays. I've had him on the stream as well. People from different media, because I'd like For the game, it's obviously in all of our interest if everyone's aware of the different ways that they can consume the game or the material around the game, be it YouTube, be it Twitch, be it a standalone website. I think it's important that we do cross promote each other. I know you could look at it as competition, but I definitely don't. I think if we work together with this sort of aim in mind to promote what we enjoy, I think we'll all benefit from that. And I don't see as anyone sort of losing in that respect. Wargaming will like it. We're kind of doing a bit of work for them in their PR department. Lord knows I field enough of their customer service questions on stream.
Sure. It's free advertising, right?
Yeah, and yeah, we get little perks back as well. But yeah, I like the whole thing. I like to feel inclusive and a sort of give and take relationship. No matter sort of who we're dealing with, be it Wargaming or other contributors or other streamers, like hosting as well. At the end of my stream, I try and host another World of Warships stream, ideally a smaller guy with only a couple of viewers, and hopefully make their day.
So was there anyone that you interacted with that was of the competition mindset, that were doing it to, I wouldn't say out of malice, but that you felt really didn't have the same kind of view you had of doing it?
Yeah, there was certainly one streamer who in fact asked that I didn't host him. And said, I don't want that. I want all my viewers to be the guys I've enjoyed. I'm not going to say recruited, but attracted. And eventually, seeing what I was doing, how I was openly welcoming people onto my stream, or hosting as a matter of a course without expecting things in return, he then messaged to sort of recant that statement and say, actually, if you want to include me and involve me, I'm very happy with that. I misunderstood sort of what the agenda was. Maybe he felt there was a hidden agenda. I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine sort of presumption in there. So I think with this encompassing and inclusive mindset, I think he was sort of won over, whereas he felt very secluded and standoffish. Maybe I think that seeing the rewards and the benefits of that attitude sort of brought him over and on board.
Did you?
Which is nice to see.
Did you see any backlash, or I don't know, maybe a drop or sort of wariness of the point at which you joined the mothership from your viewers?
No, they felt that it was kind of a tip of the hat in recognition for what I was doing, and I didn't ever start out with that aim in mind. I didn't even start out to be partnered by Twitch, really. I was streaming across multiple platforms, including YouTube gaming, and to have Warships, World of Warships, or Mr. Conway from that team then approach me and offer me this invitation to, simply you'd call it an honorary title, I guess. It doesn't really mean anything in the real world, does it? It's just kind of a little tag of recognition for the work that you're doing for them, and then with it comes previews of premium ships and stuff like that. So they felt it was kind of just rewards and would benefit them as well. So, and it did.
Well, I mean, with that, like right now, have you been able to fully transition to, your day job right now is just streaming?
Yes. Yeah, it is. It always was. I'm a kind of all-in guy, really. If I do something, I don't always, I'm not always the best at it, but I'll do my best in trying to achieve something, and I'll happily settle for what I can achieve, and I'll rest. I'll hang my hat on that.
Man, that must be nice. It must be nice, but that's good stuff. I'm glad it worked out. So,
well, so far it has. I won't say I've made it.
Well, so what's the transition plan, right? So say for some reason Wargaming or World of Warships kind of falls off. I'm sure you're looking ahead to what's next for you, right, to fill that
Battlefield
gap.
1.
Battlefield 1, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's an interesting point. I have, to be honest, I have actually been diversifying a little bit for my own sanity. I think part of it. Nearly a year of just Warships was a bit much. I felt there was a point where my sort of competence in my game my sort of gameplay was suffering. It was kind of tapering off, and it was really getting to me because as I say, I'm not the best, but I'm experienced and I am pretty capable at the game. And we all know when we should be, achieving a certain standard. And if we're not hitting that, we start asking questions of ourselves. Yes, and it can be as simple as you just need a break from the game. So I did start throwing over one day of the week to other games. I didn't want to go into World of Tanks, despite being another wargaming title, simply because of the warnings of it. And equally, I felt that these guys had come from there. But I wanted to keep within the sort of combat, free-to-play area. So we've gone on something like armored warfare, and that's only sort of been to just to mix it up a little bit. I'm not sure. And most of the time, most guys like their routine and they like to know that you'll be streaming at this time and it'll be World of Warships and so on. But to have that variation, I think, has helped me with coming back to the game, not getting burnt out, which I think I was getting to the point of having. So we did do Dreadnought as well, but I've avoided brand new sort of games, really hyped games, because I am a little fish in a big pond, and generally, if you're a little fish, you just get drowned amongst all the very, very much bigger fish that are way above you. But I timed it right with Dreadnought, and Dreadnought were very receptive and good, including me on the approved streamers list. So I got sort of early access to stream as well. So I did very well out of that, and that introduced some fresh blood. And of course, some of that fresh blood that followed and came in through Dreadnought were then tempted over to World of Warships, I hope. I think there were at least a couple that said, what's this? Ooh, what's this Warship game? And, I'll create an account and download it.
Well, so, who would you say are those big fish that you reference?
On Twitch, speaking specifically just from Dreadnought, we had people like Co-Carnage, Baron. Bad News Baron, I think he's also streamed World of Warships. He did a bit of Dreadnought. Mercenary Thorn was another one. But I think Bad News Baron is probably the largest crossover. I think Brain Cage as well did a bit of Dreadnought. But in my time slot, as I say, my usual streaming sort of schedule, for most games, like if I'd have gone into Fallout 4 with the numbers that I usually had, I'd have just been lost at the bottom of the list, and it wouldn't have done my channel any good, and it would have been a break in routine to the guys who just weren't interested in something like Fallout 4. When it's the reason I did go for it with Dreadnought was the kind of applicability, the similarity between the model of the game. Still combat, still free to play, or at least it will be. And it had that kind of progression and tiers as we're all used to. So that one was one opportunity that I jumped on. With Battlefield's going to be an interesting one because it may be combat, but it's not free to play, and it's not kind of how we look at Warships.
A lot faster paced.
And fast paced too.
Yeah.
But there are guys who have come from that or are very much familiar with that sort of model. And that might be a fun one to include them, because I use Discord for voice communications on stream, but it's an app that's like TeamSpeak, but with a much better evolved chat system. So I'll often be in there on my phone. I've got it as an app on my phone. I can just be in there and chat with them. We've got the different chat channels for different games, and we can share our interests. Again, as kind of I said, like, it doesn't have to be when I'm live on stream now, because if we have a good round in Warships, we can post a screenshot in Discord and we can share it, comment on it, offer advice, or just laugh at the person.
Of your viewers, how many would you say watch your stream for you versus say for the game that you play? Because you mentioned just now one of the reasons why you went to stream Dreadnought was because it's a very similar game to Warships. That would seem to indicate that there's some concern about dropping viewers from switching between drastically different games.
I've already seen from Armored Warfare that I'll probably have about 40 to 60 people who are just there for not just me either. For the usual names in the chat, people that they've come to sort of recognize, know, and get on with. So they'll some people will tolerate the other game. Some people will enjoy watching the other game. They're kind of just there to chat. I'm sure it's very different for each individual. With Dreadnought, it was something that I'd built a bit of hype over in Discord. There was the curiosity factor as to what this game was. So there is an element of sort of loyalty to me. That maybe they were humoring me in some aspects, and there'll be others who, it just worked great. They like World of Warships, and I was the guy they liked to watch play it, and then they were interested in this other game, and it was fantastic. The guy they liked to watch play Warships was now playing a game they were interested in. So that's been interesting. But Warships will generally now, as I say, I was getting about 300 views. I'll probably be around 100, 150. On a good day, it'll be 200 viewers. So that's kind of a good little ratio, percentage of having about 60 sort of quality guys, as I call them, who are going to be there if the working day or personal commitments allow.
Well, you kind of identified like the crossover appeal if you wanted to try and diversify because of your followers followed you and you built that following around a certain game, and so I imagine that challenge of diversifying into other games, it's almost like starting all over. But do you consider things like I'm going to go to a different region to do a game in a different time slot as part of what you're looking at to diversify?
I'm very much take it as it comes. Even still now with the channel, I don't really have a roadmap or plan for where I'm going to go with it, nor is this same true for my plans for World of Warships. I'm playing World of Warships for as long as it sort of entertains myself and my audience. With regards to sort of diversifying in other games and where I plan to go, that's sort of based on this back and forth with these guys. I use Discord for a lot of feedback for their thoughts, their feelings, their attitudes in Warships, of Warships, or just the content that I'm streaming. What did you think of this game, or what are your thoughts on maybe streaming X, Y, and Z tomorrow? Maybe I don't overdo it, but there's often it's a forum for them to voice those feelings, and I say I'm kind of. Warships has become very convenient out of familiarity, but it's that unique sort of pace of the game, as opposed to even World of Tanks. We have, we play Armored Warfare. It's very similar to World of Tanks, but Warships is just a really nice, has been a very nice platform for that. Especially if you play like a battleship, you could go away and make a cup of tea in the time that it takes to sail your battleship to a cap and get engaging the enemy. So I really like that leisurely paced thing, and I think people really like the sort of chilled sort of vibe that they get from that.
Yeah, it's something
so that's my main sort of driving criteria, I say, behind a game that I play.
Yeah, they can watch it while and play at the same time. It's kind of
Many
slow
do
sometimes, right?
Yeah, many do. Sometimes to my detriment if I'm in a destroyer, or equally if I'm in a battleship and they're in a destroyer. I'll often find someone pops around an island and say, "Hey, I was watching."
Nice.
You little bugger.
So with the I don't know how active your forums are. I've been playing around with the idea of kind of hopping over there and creating an account on the EU just to see kind of what the differences are. But what is the interaction that you guys and level of access you have to, head of Wargaming EU and super testers and their feedback and their community managers on the forums, or what other media do you use to talk to those folks?
Primarily, we use the World of Warships forum for our sort of relations with the community managers. We've got the Skype channel, as I mentioned, which is a kind of instant messaging service. So if we do need, to say, hey, Mr. Conway, do you want to join me on stream maybe as an off the cuff sort of example. But our sort of communication sort of ends at the community managers. Really, they have to take it from there. The main sort of portal would very much be the forum. Once you go into the likes of Reddit, it's
murky.
It's murky. Thank you. Yes, that's a very good way of putting it. I was struggling to find a polite way of saying it.
So you're saying your
official.
interaction kind of stops at the community manager. Do you have any access to say the lead producer or developer of EU?
On request, I'm sure it can be arranged. The one example I do have of the super testers was in that chat. He must have been a community contributor at the time anyway. But I said, look, if anyone's available today and they want some cross promotion, or even just want to div up and have a sale and a chat sort of job, you're welcome to join me. And one of the super testers spoke up and said, hey, I'm free. I said, oh, that is brilliant, because I managed to get him on there and get his perspective from the other side of the forum. So the forums are saying, hey, for example, we got the Atlanta. It spits fire. It's burning me down. It's crap. You know, you haven't balanced it. It's rubbish. And then getting the super tester's perspective, perhaps even of just the case like, okay, so I've seen this post on the forum saying that the Atlanta's OP. I can't say that we've already addressed that issue and it's coming out in the patch in a month's time or something. So he found that very difficult. It was then interesting to have the process that they have to go through on the Super Tester forum. The one time that I've been on the Super Tester forum, of course, there's literally 9 players. Sometimes probably 3 players, I think, when I logged on. You can't get a full game. So they have to coordinate and schedule these things as you do with your clan battles and events, getting people together to make up the numbers in order to play these ships and then do their whole testing thing. So I don't know if he just represented like the EU portion of the super testers, or whether this was something that's representative of the Russians as well, or covered the Russian test server. I don't know quite those level of details, but having that perspective and view then given to the viewers who are most, we can presume are the player base as well, I think was really good for relations with the game, wargaming, and World of Warships as a whole.
Well, for us, we got a chance to talk to kind of the lead super tester manager for North America, and one of the questions we asked was, is it a one pool community? But it turns out that each region has their own set of super testers that provide their own venue of feedback to higher wargaming. And I don't know, ours are really accessible, and they kind of broke down how that happens. And after something goes live, it's out of the super tester realm. So one of the changes we asked, or one of the things we asked was, if there's some balance issue in the game, how is that addressed? Who addresses it? How do you get that feedback? And the super testers, for the most part, are out of that loop once it already goes live. And so each region also varies a little bit and is run differently of how that feedback goes and what their group up test cycles are, and which even server they do it on. So I don't know, it'd be interesting to see if you got that kind of access to talk to the super testers about what their real methodology is for getting that player feedback.
Yeah, it sounds from that stream I had very, very much similar. A very similar sort of arrangement that they must have. I find it a bit perplexing about the division between NA and the EU, certainly in the community management side, the sort of agendas that they have. I know they have gotten a lot better in my experience of them, being very divided in the outset, but then sort of unifying on many of the initiatives. So it seems that communication has gotten better through varying drives, I don't know, between, or liaising between these members and EU. And that's an ongoing issue that people discuss about this separation of EU and NA. And I think we'd all welcome unification at some point of the accounts or servers.
You mean from a player aspect of everyone being, on a consolidated server, or as far as the feedback that NA and EU producers and developers give back to Russia?
As a whole of the players, so me being able to pit my tier 8 against your tier 8 and not have the problem of I've only got an NA account with tier 5s in, and then having to grind out your ships again. That was kind of specifically what I was talking.
Yeah, no, I would absolutely love to have a consolidated server, even if the times are a little different. I mean, let's face it, gamers are usually on at all times of the day, so it shouldn't be that big of an issue. But yeah, I would welcome that. But with the super tester stuff, one of the things we started talking about is modding and mods that you use in game. Do you use any mods in game?
I kept it intentionally to the minimum, to the bare minimum. I've got some extra aspects that I have to consider, and that's influenced my choice of reticle. Obviously, that's kind of one of the biggest visual things, is the reticle that you'll see on certain streams differs between the streamer player, and it's quite an interesting topic of discussion in sort of the stream with what players prefer. But there was Tic Tac Eye of Sauron, which was recommended to me, and I know quite a few chaps use it. With those diagonal lines, helps with the spotter plane, helps with ships at an angle. I decided against it because it was just too busy on my screen. It was quite offensive to the eye for someone who was just wanting to watch. Then I had the consideration of, in the early days of World of Warships, I was against modding. I've never modded a game before. It's always been vanilla, because that was the safest thing to do. If you ever have problems, it's kind of like buying a product and then going, I can make this better, and I'm going to rip this bit off, stick this bit on, and then it'll be great. And if it fails, the manufacturer says, can't help you. That was always been my consideration. But with Warships, having I know it was again before it was released, so maybe that was the other aspect that kind of tipped me over the edge. Like, I'll try and mod. And the recommended mod pack was the Aslan's mod pack, and that came with this plethora of reticles, and I could have gone to town. We've all seen all the options listed of what you could have, and I thought, no, I'm going to stick to the vanilla site, because that's what most people are going to be able to relate to. When I watch streams, I want to see how far you're aiming off. I want to see your lead time. I want to see where on the ship you're aiming with your armor piercing to get those citadels. There's all sorts of information that I personally, just as one viewer on Twitch watching a World of Warship stream, want to glean. And then it had the knock-on effect of the patches and the incompatibility of the mods, and the amount of people who just saw in my stream going, oh no, my sight reticle doesn't work now in patch 5.4.1 or whatever it is. And I kind of felt, well, I've still got my vanilla, I'm still used to it. I know I have done better with other sites, or there are ones, but there's a couple of extra ones I have used and I do miss from time to time, being damage counter and the minimap mod, one for transparency, but most importantly for the last known reported position, because my memory is pretty poor.
Yeah, we asked them again last week about, what their position on mods was, and they were pretty emphatic about, hey, we are pro mods, we're pro community doing these things, as long as they're not something that is considered a cheat or a hack. I mean, we put a mods folder in the game for a reason, and so they're really supportive of that aspect of it. And I think a couple of the things that I like modders and community modders, especially because, that it gets them involved, it keeps everyone interested, and then eventually, if it's a mod that really works, Wargame is going to suck it up. So like in 5.6 for us, one of the things is that line of sight mod, how far you can see and be seen on the mini map, is one of the features they're looking to put in between now and then. And
that's fantastic. We've already seen it with some of the reticles.
Yeah, and some of the reticle stuff they've put in, and they're looking to do those kind of things. So I'm I'm kind of excited about that aspect of, hey, at least they're saying keep doing great stuff. We'll take it for free and put it in the game for you, right?
Yeah, I agree with them. I think they're very wise too, because they've obviously got this, we won't call it workforce, but this sort of skilled base of people who are voluntarily looking at their product, improving it for their own needs, the shared needs. You know, people that are either requesting these features. These people are kind of doing the testing of these things and then getting them to consistently work so they don't cause conflicts. So they're kind of doing a lot of research and development for free, and they're innovating as well in certain aspects. It does sort of veer off, as you say, into what then crosses this weird moral boundary within us of what we deem as a cheat or a hack. Obviously, we can all describe what a hack is and what a cheat is, but then it kind of gets grey and murky when recently the issue for EU, I don't know whether surely it's probably the same on NA, but the smoke ring guide mod, that's one I've seen used, and as soon as I saw it used, felt that was crossing a boundary, and it was never something I was going to employ, much less stream with. Feeling
So
that
Really? Because
so one of
that
the
mod
examples
was actually developed by one of the Russian developers.
yeah, so I heard. Yeah.
Yeah, they said, the Russian developer team does a lot of their own stuff on the side because they just love to do it. But I guess one of the examples they gave are kind of perspective they gave on where they kind of see that line, because it is a big, wide gray line.
And that
what can a player glean from other players in the game? And the example he kind of gave was, hey, which way are this ship's turrets pointed? And if nobody else can see that ship and he's behind an island, then that's probably not legitimate. But if another person could see, what that information is, then it's more of a quality of life thing, I guess.
The in-game experience. Yeah, and that is the difference, isn't it? It's enhancing the in-game experience is one thing, and then giving an unfair edge to those with this mod pack installed is a completely different thing. Specifically with the smoke ring mod, I felt that with the meta in the game and the current state of the game being what people would perceive as being a little bit biased towards destroyers, I didn't think it fair that destroyers have an extra guide to what they already have with torpedo aiming, which I rely on.
So we didn't see, I don't know, maybe it's our perspective, right? We never saw the smoke screen ring as a destroyer tool. It was a tool for other ships that weren't destroyers. Because let's face it, a destroyer drops the smoke, he stops in it, he knows he's in it. Like, there's no question about that. It was about, hey, when you smoke battleships or you smoke cruisers, I know if I'm in that, I can get in that ring and I'm good.
Right. Yeah, that was the... Well, I guess actually as even... And it kind of breaks the saying, a triple-edged sword. But the feeling I felt was, as a destroyer, I often fall out of my smoke. Yeah, you get distracted for whatever reason. I'm like, oh crap, I'm detected. No. Boom, boom, boom. And it's
forgot to throttle down first, huh?
No, not even that. Sometimes just not paying attention to when it says smoke screen set and you're still at a quarter throttle, or you're just merrily blasting away at something thinking you'll be fine, and you paid no attention whatsoever, and that's just tunnel vision or whatever it may be. The flip side to that, was with the smoke ring mod on EU, and I say on EU, more on Twitch, the sort of discussion in the streams on Twitch, not just my own, but it bled over into others from what I saw of it. There's some YouTubers as well that it was discussed on. It can often give you a point of reference. Without the smoke boundaries, there was no point of reference to go by. And I'm trying to describe it. It's quite difficult. In my mind's eye, I was almost able to triangulate the position of a destroyer hiding in smoke, going by the person who was using the smoke ring mod. Whereas there was no position whereby you could almost more accurately work out where a destroyer was hiding within that smoke boundary, and it could have been that bugged out. But I'm kind of speaking specifically about the tactic of sitting in your smoke and firing.
Oh no,
I
that's
see.
that's fair. I didn't really notice that in the few times or we had available. It's been pretty hit or miss for us, but you're talking about as it relates to the enemy destroyer that you're trying to engage.
Yeah, that's kind of the sportsmanship side of it. So on the one hand, I felt it was another advantage for me as a destroyer, and then on the flip side, I felt it wasn't fair on the destroyer captain for me to know that he will be specifically within this boundary, uh, and I know that where those arcs of tracers are coming from, I can then use the boundary to triangulate as a point of reference his position far more accurately than I would ever have been able to have done before. And for that, that was starting to then air into the area of unfair advantage.
Yeah, I guess I could see where that would be an issue. I could
I
I
think
tend to agree.
Yeah, I think
Mm.
if they play around with it a little bit, I think it'd be fair. Like if you're looking through binoculars, the enemy's smoke wouldn't show the circles, or
There we
you'd
go,
be
and
within a
that was
certain
the other
radius.
aspect which we can back and forth all evening on
Yeah, yeah.
is gameplay versus historical accuracy and realism,
Whoa, whoa,
and
whoa! You
yeah,
said historical accuracy and
whoa,
realism. That's
dude.
crazy.
Yeah, you just said some swear words as well in
Yeah,
some
don't swear at
people's
me.
vocabularies. That, yeah, that, and that was again another aspect of the super testers sort of conversation I had with how they model ships and so on, and that another fascinating side of it. But yeah, it is quite an individual viewpoint perspective with these mods. But I think I'm very much about the information. We all love information. Hell, we're in the information age. So the last known reported position mod, you could argue that that also gives me an unfair advantage. I kind of feel it's actually fine because on board a ship, you would have a plotting room, and you wouldn't on all ships have a radar uh, screen or section, but certainly in the Royal Navy in the Second World War, radar was used for detection, and it's
But you got
very
radio. I'm all for it. That
and
one
radio
for me is
and
good.
maps, and you could even put little X marks the spot on coordinates where the last ship was sighted before we lost view range, if you even want to go into the mechanic of ships just disappearing in front of your very eyes. But
What, the Romulan destroyers? No.
yeah, and the entire battleship's just vaporizing somewhere in the mirage. But yeah, I felt that that was fine. But others could argue that that's not fair because it's not standard, and you could hunt down a destroyer far more quickly with that information to hand. But I felt that that was okay. So you could back and forth on it, and I'm not condemning the smoke ring mod. It just wasn't for me to install, and I felt that it wasn't going to be something I was going to do, and I was happy with the challenge in my own game of that. And I've never held it against someone in the chat, in the game chat. I got, oh, you shot me in my smoke because you got the smoke ring mod. How dare you? No, I got shot because either I was firing for too long. It was a mistake on my part. It was a misplay. I know it's not a cheat, so.
Well,
And I very rarely accuse people of cheating because
how would you
that's
prove
kind
it,
of the person
right?
I am.
That's part of the verification. Maybe
Absolutely,
in the
yeah.
file structure they just changed. There may be something coming for that. We're not really sure, right? We looked up on our forums, hey, how do you report a hack or a bot like the Iowa bots that plagued us for a couple weeks there? And I haven't seen them
Ah,
recently, but I don't know what happened to them. I don't
I've
know
read a
what
little bit
the
about that.
solution was, but
Mm.
it was pretty ridiculous.
Right, I think it may have even been in this dark, dank hole of Reddit somewhere about these Iowa bots that were going around, and something mention was made of selling tier 10 accounts on eBay, which was something I wasn't aware of prior to that article or that message on there about that.
No, I mean, did you guys didn't see the Iowa bots really
I
in EU?
personally didn't know. No mention of it has been made and nor have I seen it on the EU forum, but it has come across somewhere because it did ring a bell in my mind.
Oh, we saw it for a week straight. I pretty much saw at least one or two a day, and they were pretty impressive. So we kind of looked into, is there really a market out there for this kind of botting stuff? Are people selling accounts? And one I just hit up Epic NPC, had a bunch of accounts and leveling services and all that kind of stuff. The standard stuff you see in a lot of games. And so I was very curious to see, what's the going rate. So one had like 5 or 6 tier 8 ships for like $200, and so I don't know if somebody's actually buying it. I mean, they were closing out the thread saying, "Hey, I sold it to this guy and we're good now." So clearly there's a small market for that kind of thing, but I was surprised for something with such a low population.
Yeah. That all of it was a bit of a surprise to me. Again, sort of not sportsmanship, that doesn't apply, but one's own morals. It's a free to play game. If you've got that attitude in life, I feel you're going wrong, because I was raised with we get as far as we earn, the good things in life that we work towards. Have some pride and dignity, whatever. You could argue that doesn't apply. We're just talking about a stupid game here.
No, I mean my only I guess struggle was, do I sink my own or farm the other guys? I was like, I don't know. Do I want to win the match, or do I want to just sink this guy because he's an asset?
Yeah, I mean, dealing it within the game, that's interesting. What do you do when you see a disconnected player on the enemy team?
Disconnected, you farm him when convenient, but
there you go.
You focus on the active ships first, but you farm him definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I've
firing him, leave him be.
I've always had a thing like, hang on, he's not moving, he's not shooting, he's where he pretty much spawned. But there's a target that's moving and shooting back at me over there, so I'm going to shoot him first. And I will notice, and I have seen it, teammates right next to me, not shooting the active ship at all, pounding that disconnected player for all the free XP that it's worth.
That's true, but there's always those moments, though, when you're like, oh, he's disconnected, I'll deal with this guy, and then he wakes up like 7 minutes into the match.
Yeah.
And you're like,
That's
what?
happened.
I see that on my CV all the time. Like, oh, hey, look, this battleship is like AFK, but there's this other battleship who's actually here, who's actively shooting my team. I'll deal with the AFK guy later. Later turns out, oh, he's back. Damn it.
Boom, double citadel.
Yeah.
So we kind of running short on time here because we get ready for it, but I kind of want to touch on one more point before we leave, which is, for us, team battles kind of died out after a week. I mean, if you look at the top teams on the server for us, it's like 100 battles, and I'm pretty sure there are only like 5 teams playing at the time when they did that. I don't know, but part of the rub was it was tier 6, and there weren't rewards or ladders in place when it came to be. And so basically our only competition right now is community run tournaments, and I'm just curious if it's the same kind of thing, or if there's community run tournaments that you guys actively participate in the EU on.
I'm not the best person to ask from regards to a sort of clan aspect, because I'm not part of a clan. I have, however, spoken to some of the guys who are part of Omni, Odin Mortis over here. They're one of the big clans, and the sort of viewpoint and feeling is precisely that. There were many sort of levels to it, though. When these teams got to these higher alpha leagues and these higher ratings, matchmaking got ridiculous. Got not just because of the wait times or the lack of a game, but sometimes because it would then pitch them against Delta League teams, and for the same amount of work, you just didn't get the reward. But if they beat you, they could stand to take a lot of points off you. So I think there was a feeling that it was a bit flawed in that respect. Then moving on, yes, they felt that there were no rewards as there were in ranked of flags, credits, whatever on there. Now, I was never that never bothered me too much about the fact that there weren't lots of credits and flags and trophies and prizes and all this stuff, because I was under the hopeful idea that a reward would be coming somewhere at some point, be it Wargaming were watching and might even say, right, at a point in time, they would have gone, wow, so these guys are the top 10, brilliant. You guys, you're going to duke it out, and there's going to be this rather special prize, at some line, or even just recognition. And it did work to a point. They made an event out of defeating the top team. That was a little bit self-serving, because I don't believe there was any payoff to the members of the team, the top team who were playing. But ultimately, yeah, the hype died down. It's a good mode. I do still recommend it to people if they're a little bit disillusioned with random battles. The same challenges apply as any clan has faced of coordination, getting guys together at a certain point in time. I was doing it with my guys, with the viewers, in my spare time off stream. We were meeting up in the evenings, and of course in the beginning it was like nearly every day we were in it. Then it fizzled out and petered out to the point where I'd rather just sort of play on my own and chill out in randoms and take it as it comes. You have a bad round, and maybe I'll put in a request sometimes, hey guys, anyone up for team battles? Have we got enough players? If we don't, we don't. If we do, fantastic, we'll do a couple of rounds.
So it sounds like just like on NA, for
yeah.
EU, team battles has sort of petered out.
Yeah, I then, as this sort of occurred and happened, didn't surprise me too much, but I kind of came to the opinion that quite probably it was one of their many test beds, a bit like Ranked seems to have been. We haven't heard much about Ranked recently. Presumably that's because it's being overhauled with regards to the feedback gleaned from the trial runs, let's call them, that we've had. And I think this first iteration of team battles is just that. It's an experimentation. The data's being gathered on it, and it'll be fine-tuned and tweaked. And hopefully, they paid for me to travel from England to Poland and Warsaw to attend the grand finals of World of Tanks, and I found that as a huge encouragement that Wargaming are taking World of Ships seriously. They do appear to be investing in it. They've spent a lot of money on getting us contributors there, even man hours as well, paying for someone to coordinate all this. So there obviously is that desire and drive within Wargaming to progress this, with probably the end goal being of getting team battles into the sort of realms that World of Tanks is in, with the competitiveness and the rewards that come with that at some juncture. But I just don't feel, if I'm completely honest, that Warships is being given the priority that we're biased, of course, but the priority I believe it deserves, the investment that it really should have to get it to achieve all it can do. And obviously we want that quickly. If we just trust it's going to take its time to be done properly, unfortunately my faith in that's been shaken by some of the patches that have come out. they haven't been done to the best of what I believe Wargaming ability. Maybe unforeseen stuff, we just don't know. But
I mean, are you speaking specifically to the problems that we had with 5.5, or are there like other issues that draw your alarm?
A couple of patches, where changes have come in, and it's been a big fail. I'm sure we can all think of certain examples. I'm going to refer obviously to this around Christmas time, where the armor change came in. That was a complete hoo-ha about that real big own goal. And then there was one more recently that occurred. 5.5, we had that sort of unforeseen server issue, multiple objects being targeted, I think it was, that just wasn't picked up on in testing because of the low population, which is understandable. But when you've got like a sort of game breaking change in it, it's kind of demoralizing with that. But I think overall I'm quite encouraged with what I saw in that recent event with the show match, that team battles is going to go somewhere. I think it has been confirmed as being an accepted and liked feature that people have enjoyed. I think if it can be tweaked and improved, then it will do, and it's good. They're going to need our feedback and the forums to do that, and we've got to be patient and work with them, I think, to get it to the place that we all want it to go.
Yeah, I think for us, it's just a precursor to clan battles and clan tags at a global scale, and we're just kind of waiting it out to see where it goes. And I think if we really looked back to a World of Tanks model, which none of us here played, honestly, Spectre, I don't think you did, right? So
Nope.
But my understanding is, going back and researching it and looking at it, the development cycle was just as long, and it looked pretty similar to this, and it took them years to kind of get to where we all wanted it to be. So I guess we'll see how it turns out.
4 or 5 year old game, I think World of Tanks is, isn't it? And if Warships progresses at the same sort of time frame, where it should look pretty good. There's going to be a lot of changes. I'm not even going to go into that. I'd like to see. I would say I have kind of felt that it stagnated a bit. I've reached ships. I've got a tier 10 in the IGN cruiser line, but I've got a ship in every tier, but not every tier ship in every tier navy. I've sort of ground out to the ones I'm kind of interested in, and unfortunately I've got to the point where I'm kind of run out. So I mean, we've got the thing like with Russian cruisers. I'm only up to tier 5 on those. They don't personally appeal to me. I feel like German cruisers, they promote this sit back sniping max range gameplay style that I'm just not a fan of, and I really would like some good content, and it doesn't even have to be the Royal Navy. I
yes, it does. Yes, it does.
I kind of feel that they're hanging that they're keeping that carrot on that stick for as long as they can possibly get away with it before the riots break out. I think if they could just bring out some iconic ships like the German, we have been promised over and over, the German battleships are coming. The sooner the better. August. So we've even got a date now. August. I feel, Jesus Christ, what have you been doing?
They tease us with the Campbelltown too, right? They're like, "Oh, it's coming." Ah, just kidding.
Well, I think Europe's got it, right?
Do you have it?
Yeah, I've got it.
NA does not have it yet.
Yeah. Come on.
I'm slightly disappointed because I've got an obsolete American World War I destroyer flying the Royal Navy flag. It's inferior to the Wicks, from
it's a bit of a travesty, and
it's a weird thing. I mean, they weren't good even in history, so they're quite accurate. Oh, and that was my other problem. If historical accuracy is anything, then this ship's a weird anomaly because it doesn't have the Wicks configuration of ships, guns on the ship, and it doesn't have the Saint-Nazaire raid configuration where it was blown up. So it doesn't fit history whatsoever in the game. So it's got nothing to do with that. It just, I don't know, it's a bizarre thing. So my feeling is the best British destroyer in the game is flying a Polish flag, and it's called the Błyskawica.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
It's a fantastic, yeah. So I do feel
they could have at least given the Campbelltown a bonus to ramming damage or something.
Yeah, I did put the ramming flag on it, but I never got around to doing it. But yeah, I just really would like some more content more quickly. I think to keep player interest, keep us working towards something, which drives up funds. We spend money then on premium time to. I just feel that maybe it's slacking a little bit there, and I would like to see that happen.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate here, and I'm just gonna point out, I agree with you. I think all players would agree. We would love to see more content faster.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you gotta look at some of these ship models, and you just gotta admire the amount of detail that is put into them.
Yeah.
All the little portholes, like the rust. I mean, some people are pretty divided about rust. But all the little things on the decks and everything, and I mean, you gotta imagine how much work that that ultimately is.
I can't even begin to imagine. When we talk about artistic modeling, rendering, CAD drawings, it's just a completely different world, and that's kind of against me. That and all the laymen, all we care about is the end product, and we can only imagine what goes into it. The same with anything like that, and there is no other real contender to give that we can use as a benchmark. The only one that we had that tried to promise it was a Chinese copy, and that didn't have that rendering. It brought out all the ships that we wanted, or I wanted. It had all the iconic tiers and ships in an interesting layout, even probably better in historical accuracy, but it just didn't have that level of detail, that level of immersion. A lot of the bonuses and pros that we like about World of Warships. So yeah, that lends into what we were talking about earlier about diversity. I'm not going to be dropping World of Warships anytime soon, but to keep both mine and my viewers' interests, we want to keep it similar with the hopes that this evolves into what we all imagine it will do and hope it will do. And hopefully NA will increase its player base as well. And any issues that you're having sort of related to that will resolve in time, be it through unification or simply through a greater uptake. I don't know.
Agreed. I think, with time, hopefully, as wargaming, optimizes their production, chain, we can get, more and more ships faster.
Yeah, sure, and perhaps even with team battles, if they get that going, the competitive stuff, it gets exposure as people do well in it, rewards come along, and then that gets people aspiring for these great ships, for great gameplay, and we can hope that that's where it's going to take off too, and that we've got to play our part in help promoting it and getting those people on board.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's a good place to leave it, even though we could probably talk for hours more. But we've got a community match to get to, which we hope everyone checks out. But
fantastic.
It was awesome talking to you today, and we hope you'll come back and chat with us sometime.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I'd love to, and apologies if I've waffled on too much. I imagine you'll have a bit of editing, but it's been brilliant speaking to you guys. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks for coming on.
All right,
Cheers.
Thanks, and that's a wrap.